Okay, Lincoln garden friends, I'm going to show you guys how to plant your next vegetables for the winter. And the type of vegetable we're going to plant today is one of my favorites, which is chard. This is a really pretty type of chard. It's called rainbow chard. I think it's rainbow chard or bright lights. There's a lot of different names for these different colored chards. But we grew some of this last year in our garden and it did really, really well. So this year we've got a bunch of this available for you guys to plant in your gardens. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Let me put that aside. We've also got some other things like this is broccolini, which is a special type of broccoli. And I didn't bring it here today, but we've also got cauliflower and cabbage. So now the bed behind me just got planted with cover crops. So about half of the beds in our vegetable garden this year are going to get cover crops, and about half of them are going to get vegetables. And we'll talk about how that will actually help this to grow later on. Because we're going to take some of the cover crop leaves and stems and shoots from that and mix it into this soil later, or use it as a fertilizer to help our vegetables grow either later during the spring or in the summertime too. All right, so let me put the broccolini aside and I'm going to show you what you're going to need. So you don't need this, you don't need any big fancy tools like that. So let's put that aside. So you're just going to need a few simple tools like this. Now this bed doesn't have much residue, much previous crop leftovers. There's a little bit of, I think this bed had peppers in it. So we've got some of this stuff, but let me put this aside for a minute. What we need to do is we need to get our irrigation system out of here first. So we just lift it up. Now remember, some of these irrigation systems are connected in with some pins. They're kind of like little U pins that hold down the end here. So if you're taking up one of these systems, make sure it's not connected into the soil by some pins, all right? I've got a bucket here, and I'm going to put a bunch of this leafy stuff, or this old pieces of leaves and stuff from our previous vegetables in the bucket on the side. Now this is a different bucket than our irrigation bucket. We don't want to get soil in our irrigation bucket because that might make it clog. So I'm just taking a bunch of the stuff off the surface that's kind of loose, all right? Now down in this section, there's some weeds that are coming up, or they might be, actually they're weeds and sweet alyssum. So we're going to actually kind of dig this up just a little bit, not more than about that deep, just to kind of uproot these weeds or these alyssum plants. We've got lots of alyssum in the garden, so don't worry about getting rid of a few of them. I'm just kind of roughing up the soil surface a little bit to get these other seedlings out of here. Okay, and making the bed a little bit even. This is actually that's another plant. It's a weed. We don't want that one in here. Okay, so I got that. Really doesn't take very long, and what this is doing, this is just gonna make sure that we don't have a lot of stuff like it's weeds or alyssum that's growing and competing with our vegetables. Okay, so we got that kind of all mixed or scuffed up on the surface. All these little green plants that we're growing in here, they should be uprooted now. And you don't need to take these out, just leave them on the surface, kind of level it off, okay, with your hands. If there's any stones like this, throw those onto our walkway. And now it's time for us to plant. Now the way I like to plant in here is I like to put things in about 6 lines, and even though we're not going to plant everything, that whole line, we're just going to put about 6 plants per line. I still think it's helpful to make a little bit of a trench in here. So I'm going to put this fork in the middle of the bed. Then I'll make 3 lines on this side and then 3 lines on this side. That'll just help me keep track of where the plants go, where the vegetables go. So there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's kind of like when I planted the cover crop over there, except for we're not going to put seeds in here, we're going to put transplants. And then 1, 2, 3 on this side. Okay, so we now have 6 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're ready to plant. All right, now you just got to pick out your favorite colored chard. Now these plants, they just pull right out of the transplant trays. If you pull them, you don't want to rip them out, but you want to kind of give them a firm pull and they should come right out. They're pretty pretty. Some of them actually have, if they're the red colored ones, they've got red colored roots. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of place 6 plants on the surface in one line, okay? And I kind of like to mix up the colors to make it real pretty. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? Let's not do 6. Let's just do 5. So there'll be 5 plants in each line. So 5 plants in each line. There's 6 lines. So 5 plants times 6 lines. That's going to give us 30 chard plants in our vegetable bed. Okay, now to plant these, you want to plant them kind of evenly. So the first plant's going to go right here. Just put it a little bit underneath the soil surface, and then you can use your trowel to kind of make a little slot and put it in there. Now, an important question to ask is, how deep should they go? Well, the surface of this transplant plug should be right around the surface of your soil. So you don't want to plant it so it's like this deep. You want to plant it so it's more like right around there, okay? If you plant it too deep, it won't grow well. Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. Let me get my next bunch going here. Okay. Okay, so I just finished planting the 30 chard plants. I got 5 in each of my 6 lines. And now the next thing we need to do is we're going to put our transplants aside. And remember all that residue from our previous crop that we took out? We're now going to take that and kind of put it on the soil surface kind of in between the plants. So if the pieces are too big, then you can just cut them up with a pruner. You don't want to cover over the plants, but you want to have the chard plants or whatever vegetable transplant you put in there have some residue in between them on the surface. So you're kind of like hiding the vegetables in that residue. Okay, so the reason we're doing this is because this is going to make our vegetables grow better, in my opinion. So you still should be able to see those 5 plants in there when you're done putting down this residue. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. There's this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they're covered over, then just kind of move this stuff aside so you can still see them. See that? And I don't know if you remember when we were doing the other bed there where we put cover crops. If you've got some leftover previous crop leaves and stuff that couldn't go into that bed, you could place it in this bed. Okay? Because what's going to happen as these plants grow is they're going to grow, and all this residue is going to decompose and become part of the soil. I hope you have fun doing this. I just love gardening. And it just makes you feel so good when you're doing it. Then when you get to eat the vegetables, they even taste better. Okay, so I'm almost done there. Look at that. I got all that residue from our beds. We've got it covering the soil surface. Now after you're done with this, I want you to go through and check real carefully to make sure that you can still see all 30 of your plants. So let's check. On this side we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. And this one we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's check on this one too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. That one's covered a little bit. Let's move that aside a bit. 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can tell I know how to count. So there you got it. That's how you plant your vegetables for your winter garden. Now I would suggest that we come and water this a little bit as well. I want to make sure that you guys remember when you do this is I only want you to use a watering can that's got one of these ends on it. If it doesn't have an end on this, don't use it because the water comes out too fast. You probably don't need more than about 1 2-gallon watering can for your whole bed. And you want to have somebody who's really got good control of the water to put the water down. So watch how I do it. I'm going to go across like that. I'm going to stop. I'm going to go across like this. Okay. I'm going to go over here. And I'm trying to make it kind of go down those lines where the vegetables were. Now, if we didn't have all this residue on the soil surface, then the water would kind of be pooling and puddling, and it wouldn't be moving into the soil well. But because we've got nice residue on the surface, the water is going to move into the ground, into the soil really nice and evenly. And also if it doesn't rain for a little while, all this residue on the surface will help to keep the soil moister. Okay. There you go. We planted our vegetables. We've got our beautiful chard growing here. We've got our cover crop back here. And I'm looking forward to some really nice vegetables from our garden, and I hope you are too. Hey, take care and have fun gardening. Have a good winter break. When you come back from school, you'll be able to see all the nice vegetables and cover crops that we planted in our beautiful garden here at Lincoln Elementary School in Salinas, California. Take care.